I told you there's something beyond the last episode. So yeah, let's now get into the next three, which started with Batman Beyond. Now this is a cartoon that is kind of hit and miss with people for some reason. I happen to like it quite a bit. People say, well, it's not really a Batman cartoon. It comes off more like Spider-Man. What's wrong with that? We have a new Batman here, so of course he's not going to be like Bruce Wayne. It's not going to be a traditional Batman cartoon. Yeah, so we have a new Batman. This one, of course, because it happens decades later when Bruce is an old, bitter man who can't even be Batman anymore. In the first episode, Rebirth, it was very interesting when they show us how he retired and why he retired. It was pretty cool, and that whole like three-parter of Rebirth introducing us to Terry McGinnis. You know, he's not a perfect guy. He's kind of a jerk, and his interactions with his family, and then when he meets up with Bruce Wayne, how they meet, and then him discovering that Bruce Wayne was Batman, and then taking the suit for himself to avenge. Well, I might as well just spoil it because it's decades old. I might as well talk about it. To avenge his dad's death at the hands of what seemed to be the Joker's, but was actually the head of Wayne Powers. Since Bruce has basically lost control of Wayne Enterprises, is now Wayne Powers. And our main villain here is Derek Powers, who becomes the villain Blight. It was a very interesting transformation. They try to make him kind of like his Joker, and even the way he would laugh when he first showed that he was now who he was now Blight. It was something that was trying to call back and recreate the villains, the classic villains, in a sense. More on the Joker later. But this series went 3 seasons. There were some good episodes, some okay episodes, some that were kind of forgettable. But my only beef with it was that Terry McGinnis, the new Batman, got his ass kicked too much. Especially in the later seasons. I would think that in maybe second and third season he would, put up more of a fight and not get his ass kicked so often. But that's a minor gripe. But all in all, I kind of liked having this new Batman who is trying to learn from Bruce Wayne but not be him. And it's an interesting series. One episode was actually deleted, well, not deleted, but was never shown on TV. You can call it a lost episode because the day it was going to come out, it was the week after 9/11, so they didn't want to have like a terrorist plot for that episode, so they put it aside. They didn't show it. And it's only available on DVD. I never owned the DVDs. I just borrowed them once. Okay, but it was definitely a good series, I thought, and it had its own movie as well called Batman Beyond: The Return of the Joker, with Mark Hamill again as the Joker, voicing the Joker, which is good because you had Mark Hamill doing the voice of Joker, because you had Kevin Conroy voicing Bruce Wayne in this series. So it's nice to have the old voices, and it's still connected to the continuity of the previous Batman and Superman cartoon, which I kind of liked. So that story was interesting, and it showed what happened to Tim Drake, who we saw in the Batman and in the New Adventures of Batman and Superman in that 4th season. So we didn't have a lot to go on with Tim Drake for that last season, but see what happens to him here. I was like, damn, that's you just see it, especially if you watch on the DVD, the uncensored version. It's like, ooh, damn. But I think it's a pretty good movie, one of the better animated movies from DC. So what's interesting about this is that this show, even though it ended, it's still technically going on right now in the comics. DC's putting out Batman Beyond comics, which I kind of like. I try and read them when I can. I can't always buy them, and I gotta have somebody like send them to me if they can, but I try and read them when I can. I'm not that good with reading the comics nowadays. But with Batman Beyond, it's kind of interesting because you went into the future, and now with the next 2 series, you go back into the present in a sense, but you still call forward, I guess you want to call it, to what happened to the events in Batman Beyond. With that, let's go to our last 2 cartoons for this series, which are Justice League and Static Shock. Interestingly enough, on 2 separate networks, yet they still are connected together and are connected to the same universe. So, first I want to talk about Static Shock. I think this one came out in 2002, started in 2002, and Batman Beyond ended about 2003. It only went 3 seasons. Batman Beyond only went 3 seasons. Then you had Static Shock. I kind of liked Virgil Hawkins. The one thing about these cartoons across the board is that they've got some good voices. I like that. The cartoon, if the voices are crap, it doesn't matter how good the animation is. You can't get through the voices. That's just how it is. But they had a good voice with Virgil Hawkins. And his family, his dynamic with his friends and family, him trying to be Static Shock, how he got his powers with some, what they call the Big Bang, with an explosion at a gas factory, or an explosion with a bunch of gas canisters around a bunch of teenagers. Hey, what do you expect? It doesn't have to be rocket science here, people. But one thing I liked about Static Shock a lot was that they didn't do anything extra to make him black or urban. He was just a regular teenager. He was treated and written like a regular teenager, and it didn't matter that he was black. He was just the hero of the story in an interesting. I use that word a lot, don't I? Because this series is interesting. This series of cartoons. Little town that's very racially diverse, which is good. It's not a lily white community, but it's nice to see that sort of dichotomy with him and his family, and even especially his dad, because in the later season, his dad actually finds out who he is, and he tells him, you know what, in the back of my mind, I always knew. And that sort of thing was something I had questioned before, like, what happens if the family ever finds out? Do they ever suspect that their relative, their son, their daughter, their husband or wife or whatever, do they ever suspect that they're, a hero or not? And it's good to see that happened. So this series had I think it was an okay crossover with Batman Beyond, because there's an episode where Virgil ends up in the future and he meets old Bruce Wayne and the new Batman, Terry McGinnis. And it was interesting to see because he basically sees his future self, but his future self doesn't give him much to go on what he should do as a person, which is good. You don't need to hear all about your future. I don't think I would. I would want to know. So, not only is there an okay crossover with Batman Beyond in a sense, but there's also a pretty good crossover with the other cartoon that came out around the same time, which is Justice League. Yeah, this is our first look at the Justice League, and the most wanted character that I think a lot of people wanted to see was Wonder Woman. And she had a pretty good character in this. There was a couple of 2-part episodes dealing with her, especially her in the Amazons, and I thought it was a nice little thing to do that would focus on just that one character. And a couple of characters have their moments to shine with 2-parters. So it was good to see that. And especially Hot Girl, who, when you first started watching, probably thinking, why was she put in there? But her character growth throughout Justice League, is a good thing to see. I liked seeing it, and her relationship with Jon Stewart, the Green Lantern in this series, was okay. It wasn't shoehorned, at least. It wasn't crowbarred, so I was able to accept it. It wasn't crowbarred. They built it up throughout an entire season. So at least in that sense, they didn't force it in one episode. So I was cool with that. And then it became Justice League Unlimited. There was a lot of heroes at that point. They tried to give different heroes time to shine, and it was okay, but it wasn't as good as how it was when it was just a small group of heroes. But nonetheless, I think it was nice way to give other heroes a chance to shine and let people say, hey, oh, who's that? And then you find out who they are and what they can do. So, like I said, they have a good crossover with Static Shock when it was just the small group of Justice League, and they're fighting against Brainiac, but also they do a crossover with Batman Beyond when it's Justice League Unlimited, when a few of the heroes get sent forward in time thanks to a time-traveling thief. And they get to see a couple of future selves and also a couple of future kin, their kids, and it was something that they left open, but they never did anything with until the comics came out years later. But at that point, it wasn't really much to do. But at least the final episode basically saw Batman Beyond one last time, Terry McGinnis, and it was titled Epilogue, and we got to see his story when he is finally a man and truly is Batman. It's an interesting, there's that word again, it is an interesting story because you wouldn't think they would do that sort of thing based on what they showed in the Batman Beyond cartoon. It was weird in a sense, but it was like, oh man, that's kind of weird. And it's also, I wonder what else happened in that series then between the end of the actual series and when Terry McGinnis becomes a true man, the true Batman. So, I know I probably rambled a bit, and also I do a lot of stuff out there, but which one of these 5 cartoons is your favorite? Which one did you think you would recommend the most? I'm going to say this. It'll probably be Batman, the Adventures of Batman. So, other than Batman and Superman, which of the 3, let me say that, which of the 3 would you recommend? Batman, Beyond, Static Shock, or Justice League? Which one would you recommend to somebody who doesn't know about these characters? So that's all I got for now. I hope you liked it. And I got one more video coming up, and then I don't know what I'm going to do after that. I'll probably take a short break. So until then, later.